And we are broadcasting. We're live and in the in Tequilas right now. Everybody's just looking at Chester's background. Let me fix the layout. We need to make. Oh, and Jim's here. As you can tell, I'm still not quite ready. I'm almost ready. Change layout. There we go. That's for in here. And minimize this. Okay. I'm here. Everyone else is here. Just far enough out of range that it what is that? Oh, that's that's my camera. All right. I think that's what we're looking forward to. All right. Hello and good morning and welcome, Computer Club. I'm Scott Stimson from International Computer Solutions, and we meet every Tuesday to discuss tech topics and share tech news and try and help each other out with troubleshooting and whatnot. Welcome. Carlos, this is try to always have a virtual here that haven't been here in a while. Yeah, well, that's for me to know and for you to find out. So we started this just a little bit ago. The joke was like, who's going to show up for this meeting when my wife is having a meeting on immigration in Loma del Mar right now? And she absolutely is. At this moment right now, if you need to know anything about FM3 or Permanente, she's giving away all that information right now in the clubhouse cultural center. Is that what it's called now?
Well, it's always been that.
It's not called the clubhouse. Okay. Want the same information offered to me this morning. She could do the same presentation to our group sometime in the future if we would like. And so we could pick a day to have her come on a computer club day, and she would do a presentation to us on all the changes that have happened in getting your immigration information. That in the future at some point. She's done that for us in the past. She's come in, but I don't think a long time, maybe 5 years, 6 years, and a lot has changed since then. Dawn did his. Oh, the electric? Oh, that would have been a long time ago. Yeah. I don't know. For the longest time, though, it was the podcast that she had been recorded on that got the most listens out of everything. It was her immigration presentation. Cheryl has a question. Cheryl's got a hand up. What's up, Cheryl?
And we only actually able to follow the conversation. So
that's okay. I'm the only one speaking at the moment.
Oh, okay. Well, you seem to be answering people's questions, and we don't hear the other side. So just going forward, if you could enlighten us on what you're responding to, that would be great.
And I'll try and put this microphone more central. Maybe we can get some more of the room. Can you still hear me okay? Because really, that's all that matters.
You're coming through very well.
Okay, good. I wonder if maybe I've got the wrong microphone hooked up. Let me just take a second to verify that's not the case. Nope, all that's correct. Okay. People are just mumbling in the background.
We're making a side comment.
They're busy making fun of me quietly.
That's side. Not necessarily.
Out of the side of her mouth, she's making comments. Well, as usual, I sent out a document with some topics on it, but that is not the most important thing to me. The most important thing to me is being able to help you guys and hear your topics and hear what you got going on. Did anybody bring some stuff they are interested in sharing with the group today? I see. Oh, Cheryl's got her hand up at the same time Bill is. Are you guys fighting to tell me the same story?
No.
Cheryl, what do you got?
Hi, everybody. This is my friend Ruth, and Ruth
Hi,
has
Ruth.
Hi. Hello.
is enjoying Senshu. She has an Android tablet and an Android phone. She has gallery on both. She has Google Photo on both, and we can't get them synced. I need help. Where do I go to sync photos from phone to tablet and vice versa?
Google Photos.
They sync.
Yeah, if you're using Google Photos, they should just be syncing.
Would she have to be signed in on a Google account or something like? I
Yes.
just well.
Yes, this Google account was opened, maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago. Password.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can go through the lost or forgot password if that works, but if you can't get past that, then you might be looking at setting up a new Google account.
Well, so far, like I can see on the Google Photos on the tablet that she's logged in, but I need to see on the Google Photos on the phone. She's logged in on 2 different Gmail accounts.
Well, that's the reason.
There you go.
Okay, well, my Gmail,
She's using a different Gmail account on both devices, so they'll never sync together.
How do we get rid of the Gmail account that she's logged into? I think I've discovered my own thing. And there's no photos. Oh, wait a minute.
Well, is it turned on to synchronize photos? Because if it's
Where
not,
do you do
then
that?
it should be under the Google Photos backup settings.
it says unable to sign in as drlakes@telus.net, which is the account that I'm using. The original account was set up in Yuma, Arizona. And then when we went,
I'm sorry, that email address that you just rattled off, do you have access to it?
yes,
No, but
that's the one I use all the time.
This one
Okay,
says
so your next steps would be to go to Google, password under that email address, and they'll probably send you authentication to that email address.
I have the email address for the DR Lakes at TELUS, but what's happened is TELUS has taken over, it's now Gmail. It's a Google, TELUS is now Google email account.
No.
Yes, it is. I had to change it.
Well, what's really important is that when you ask for a new password for this Google service, that it's sending that request, whatever it needs, the code or TELUS email address, and you can pick up your TELUS email. That's the most important thing.
Email. That's right. I can pick up my TELUS email now, but I cannot pick up my Gmail.
Yeah, contact your G Suite administrator for more information. What's a G Suite administrator?
A flaw.
Contact your G
Flaw.
Suite.
I'm starting to feel the problem that you're having. What can it, have you tried your password?
That contact
It's the wrong answer for 90% of our solutions. But in this case, it may be the right answer. If TELUS has off-sourced administration to Google, to Gmail, then it could be it's the same password.
What if I eliminate this original Gmail address and just keep the TELUS one?
Well, I would honestly think that a better solution would be to have an original Gmail and not rely on the TELUS Gmail as your Gmail account. I would want your inner services to be separate from your communication services, your emails. I mean, we're talking about it. You get internet service from Prodigy. I don't necessarily say that you should use Prodigy as your email address. And in this case, because they've decided to use Gmail to administer your TELUS, it's created a real confusion.
Okay, I think I can explain that to her because TELUS is a provider.
So Linda, I think what they're explaining to me is that just like, and you guys may remember this, AT&T, they bought Yahoo for a while, and they moved all their SBC customers over to Yahoo so that their email was being, even though it was SBC mail, it was being run and administered through Yahoo. And I think now is TELUS is maintaining their email addresses through a service with Google that they've purchased.
But you don't use
Email, I have to go to Google and bring it in on.
Google stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
I use
Yeah.
Google all the same email. I don't
Mhm.
have a password. But
That-
some people don't.
And that's kind of the problem they're in, is that they have got a Gmail account, they've got a TELUS email account, and it sounds like their TELUS email has been transposed to a Gmail account.
But what's your Google account?
Right. That's
It-
precisely.
It says that she has to contact her G Suite administrator.
That's
With
for the TELUS.
That's the TELUS. Okay.
Yeah. So if her TELUS email password does not work there, then you're going to have to get on the phone with TELUS and figure out what that email account password is. But you can sidestep all of this. I mean, I'm surprised that the TELUS email account password you have isn't working if this is the case. But that needs to be sorted out just in case you need to set up email somewhere else at some point. You can accomplish what you want to accomplish through the Gmail account that you have. You would just sign out of, you'd remove that sign in, the one with the bad password, and replace it with your Gmail account. And then the phone would start syncing to that Gmail account. Well, it's actually a software thing, but yeah.
Well, is she signed into Google?
She signed into both. She signed into a Google. She signed into Google Photos using a Google account.
Yeah.
She's also on the other device. She's trying to sign into Google, or has been signed in the past, using a Google account whose username is the TELUS email address. And what's being reported that I haven't verified is that TELUS is no longer managing their email. Google is managing their email, which adds a third complication into what you're doing.
Just make a new account.
So if she creates,
They don't need to, Linda, because she's already got a Google account. She just needs to sign into both devices with the same account.
okay, and yeah, sign into both devices with the same Gmail account.
Yes.
Right, okay, so I'll see if I can get that done. Is there a way to change the password? Because she's logged into the one Gmail account that we don't know the password to. Is it possible to change that she's already logged into and then log into it on another device?
The only way to do it is forgot password. And then you'll have to set it, you'll have to set the new password on the other devices.
Okay. Okay.
Sounds good.
I think I've got a way to work on this. Thank you.
I've got a feeling the TELUS email, you're going to have to get a hold of TELUS to figure out, because it's giving you that G Suite's administer message. I think what that's really telling you is contact TELUS.
She'll do that when she gets home. So,
Thank you
okay.
so much.
You're welcome. Okay, Bill's got his hand up.
I have a short report on iOS 17.
Oh yeah, the newest iOS.
I must have,
Speak up, Billy.
what?
Louder, she says.
I don't want to talk louder, okay?
Project.
Yeah, project. I'll use my teacher voice. You, sit down. That work? Anyway, yeah. Yeah. I literally froze a student in mid-step one. Looked like a cartoon version, Roadrunner. Anyway, I think I have auto update on both my iPad and here because all of a sudden I'm 3.
Okay.
And the reason I noticed that is that somehow my phone and my iPad the batteries weren't working very well. It seemed like they were discharging too quick.
Oh no,
Oh no.
that's the complaint.
Is that the complaint?
But it's a complaint that they've been having since 17.2.
Yeah. So I went on the internet and I looked and it said, okay, do this, which is for fixing this problem. And
How long ago did you do this, just to start with?
I think
Yesterday?
I'm about 4 days in now. I
Okay.
think.
Yeah, that's enough time that if it has anything to do with indexing and
Yeah.
setting up, which this is common, especially.
And that seems to be what I noticed.
Yeah.
That now things are getting back
to normal. That's
yeah,
right.
And that's one of the things they said in those blurbs is it may take 2 to 3 days for everything to settle back down, and it seems like they're working
Yep.
better again.
Yeah, what you're describing is very common behavior, especially with the iPhone lines. That when you do a system upgrade, especially a big increment like that, from a 16 to a 17, a 15 to a 16, a 16 to a 17, they're replacing the entire operating system, and that iteration is so large. They're motor. Than what you've used in the past. Is kind of be like bringing your car to the mechanic and having them replace it with a completely different motor. So everything's going to feel a little different. It's gonna operate a little different. And in the case of our phones and tablets, there's an amount of time where it needs to index files and rediscover things with this new motor, and that time period can last 2 days sorting out. And during that time period, the phone or will get hotter than you're used to experiencing. It'll go slower than you're used to experiencing it. It'll drain the battery faster than you're used to experiencing.
Yeah, it's doing a bunch of work.
Right after a big update like that, there's this period of time that could be 24 hours to 48 hours where it's just going through these growing pains. And then after that, it's going to still act a little different. Incremental difference like this is 16 to 17, 15 to 16, 16 to 17, one of those big jumps. I'm not talking about 17.1 to 17.2. That's going to feel very similar. It's going to have some security fixes in it. Okay, there's hands up. What's up, Judy?
So I also did an upgrade to 17.3.
Yeah.
And there's a new stolen device protection that you can enable.
Okay, yeah, I was reading about that.
I read about it says that it doesn't do anything bad, so you should do it. So I did it.
Okay.
We'll see if I have a stolen device, if anything happens.
Okay. Do you think you have a stolen device anyway?
No, I mean, if someone steals my device.
Yeah.
If there's anything I can do.
Couldn't figure out what the difference was. Did you between that and Find Mine? Did you read that, Bill?
What I read was that it's only if somebody starts or you start your phone in a unusual form.
Ah, okay.
And then it said there will be a two verification, 2 levels.
Oh, okay.
But other than that, it stays normal. It's just a single verification.
And also, if you go to trade in your device or something, there'll be a 2-hour wait while this stolen device protection.
Okay. Part about the extra
Yeah, that's what I read.
authentication. That seems very sensible, though. If that is the case, then what'll be interesting to see is what's the behavior when you've left it on and you move around. Like you spend your time in Colorado and San Carlos. If you take a trip to Bolivia, when you get there, is it going to ask you for extra authentication?
That's fine.
Yeah, no, I mean, it should be. It's your phone.
That's
It'd
fine.
just be interesting to see how that behaves. I mean, some of the other behavior we see.
It works like that. I live in Baja. That's far enough.
Yeah.
They automatically mark.
And I've got it on my iPad as well as my phone.
Cool.
Just gonna
So
add-
you're running 17.3 as well? No, you. I
Ron, this is Scott.
Ron,
Scott, this is Ron.
I think we've met before, right?
I don't remember where. Jail.
Yeah, that's right. The last time we were in jail together, right? I remember.
I was going to mention, my upgrade was from, like, I had 17.21 or something on. So it wasn't the major jump. It was from 17.2 to 17.2.
That-
That's
no.
what,
Oh,
that's the jump that happened.
Oh, from
It only went
17.2 to
from
17.
7.2 to 7.3.
Yeah.
So it wasn't from 16 to 17.
Well, still,
But
yeah.
that's the behavior that I saw. It seemed like after 2 days, it was back to normal.
It's just very common for these upgrades, especially these mobile Apple devices, to behave like that. Just take a while to dial in. You know, speaking of this, I'm having flashbacks to an issue that I've had recently that I don't think I've shared with you guys. As far as external hard drives, the drives that you would plug in for backups or to carry movies around on or to move your files from one computer to another, spinning hard drives. My buddy Richard and I were in a discussion about NTFS versus FAT32 or exFAT. These are the formats that these devices, whenever you plug in a device to copy files to, it's got to already have a format on it, or you have to put a format on it. Most things you buy from Amazon or Walmart or JG's computers, they're going to be formatted to begin with. So you plug it into your device and you can start putting files over to it. What I discovered, I run Macintosh and Windows computers, and I have a lot of these external disks that are formatted under NTFS. NTFS is the file format computer since Windows NT, way back 30 years ago. This has been the preferred format for Windows computers. And the disadvantage of that format is the drive. If I take it out of a Windows computer and stick it into a Macintosh computer, it can read from it, but it can't write to it. And that's intentionally handicapped by Apple because they like to say, "Suck it, Microsoft. You should have bought a Macintosh." And so you can, in the past, it hasn't been difficult to set up. The Macintosh operating system is based on a Unix operating system, which gives the user a lot of controls over configuring hardware. And so you can jump through these hoops and you can make it talk to an NTFS drive and you can make a NTFS drive. And in the past, that's always been the solution. And it's gotten harder and harder and harder to do that as we've moved up incrementally through the hardware changes and the software changes on the Macintosh. Each iteration, it becomes slightly more complicated to do that. And as a result, there's a huge inventory of Macintosh is dedicated to making it possible to use your Windows drives on your Macintosh. And you just pay $5 and you can have this software and it'll talk. And that kind of burns me a bit because it's the only thing making it complicated is Apple. The underlying software doesn't make it complicated. Apple makes it complicated. So I'm pursuing this. I've come up with an open source version. I've put all this into my Mac, and I'm having to go through these arcane cryptic commands to get it up and running. And I'm complaining to my buddy Richard about this, and he's like, "Why don't you change to exFAT?" And this is the point of my story. Why don't you just switch over to exFAT? exFAT is an open format standard. Most drives you get from the internet, like if you buy from Amazon or if you buy from Walmart, any of these, or the flash drives that you pop out and you plug in, most of them are going to come exFAT formatted to begin with. If you see a drive for sale that says Windows only, that's coming as NTFS, and that's less likely these days. So I'm like, well, I buy a drive, I format it as exFAT. I throw all this data on it. It runs beautifully in Windows. I just plug it into Windows. There it is. I put a bunch of movies and music and TV shows on it, and I plug it into a Windows computer, and it's right in front of me. No problems. I can start listening, no problems. It's just ready to go. And I plug it into the Macintosh, and it's like it doesn't exist. It's like I didn't put anything in. And I'm like, what's going on? I used the Macintosh to configure this drive. I mean, I actually was doing the transfer from my old drives to this new drive on the Macintosh, and it was going at a slow enough rate that I'm like, there's got to be a faster way to do this. So I took them over to my Windows computer, and sure enough, it's 4 times faster, even though this is an M1 Mac. This is a new, try and sort out why I was having such a slow data transfer on the Macintosh. I just wanted to get this chore done. So I get the chore done, drive's working great, passing all the tests, plug it in the Macintosh, it's like it doesn't exist. I take one of the NTFS drives just for, shits and giggles. I plug it in, sees that Windows drive with no problem, but it's not seeing my new exFAT drive at all. And I'm just really frustrated, and I go on the internet and I start researching why this could be. And there's a bunch of people complaining about the software upgrade making their drives unavailable. I'm like, great, I just did the software. I did the software update in the midst of this project. When I plugged them into the Windows computer, I'm like, well, now what am I going to do while I'm waiting for that? Oh, I know, I'll take this as an opportunity to do the update I've been waiting to do on my Macintosh. And I'm very conservative. Richard said this too. I'm very conservative with my updates. My main driver computers are not my experimental computers. And I've recommended to you guys in the past too, wait for 2 iterations. If 17 comes out, wait for 17.2 before you get involved in it. And that's how I treat my my desktop operating systems. So I was running on 13 or 13.6.1, and Sonoma version 14 has been out long enough for it to go up to 14.2.1. I'm like, this is the time. I got this other task that's going to take hours. I'll upgrade the Macintosh. I upgrade the Macintosh. Task is over. Plug it in. Can't read any of the files off of the disk. I get online, and what it's telling me is, oh, it's that update. Like, ready to rip my hair out. I'm experimenting. I have an old Mac in the house. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to plug it in the old Mac, see if it works there. Because if the upgrade is the issue, then the old Mac should read it without a problem. I plug it in, doesn't see it there. And the most interesting part about trying to find is that I have some silly programs that came with Western Digital, therefore checking the health of Western Digital hard drives. And it was the only thing in my Macintosh that had a glimmer of notion that there was this piece of hardware plugged in. You could see low lighted in gray under the list of drives, under the Western Digital software, there was this thing called an HV500. I couldn't access it, couldn't do anything. Like the Macintosh operating system was not showing me any indication I had this drive plugged in. But this silly drive utility from Western Digital had a little inkling that it was plugged in. I was mad, and I left it on that old Macintosh. And I probably shouldn't have, because it could have been doing damage to the drive. But the other thing is that the files on the drive were already, they were a backup of what was somewhere else. So I wasn't worried about them getting corrupted. And I wasn't worried about it doing damage to the hard drive. If that's the case, the hard drive's already got problems. It's being sent back anyway. I was just frustrated and let it sit there. And one of the characteristics that it had was its activity light was flashing the whole time it's plugged into the Macintosh, but nothing's appearing on the screen. You can't see the drive. You can't see any files. You go into the disk utility. The drive doesn't appear for you to work on to fix problems. At one point, I pulled it off the Mac, plugged it into a Windows, and it said, "Oh, this is corrupted. You need to fix it." I let the PC fix it. Stick it. It's all exFAT. Plug it back into the Mac. Exactly the same problem. That's where I went into the house, plugged it into an old one, had the same problem, just left it angry. Next morning, I woke up. Drive's totally available. I'm able to get to every file on it. I can see it on my desktop. I mean, quite literally took hours for the Macintosh to decide it could see this drive.
And how old is your Macintosh?
It's brand new. It's an M1 Mac Mini. I mean, it's not brand new. It's from 2020.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, it's running the latest operating system and it's got the latest technology. So why? I'm like, that's crazy. Can I look at it on my new Mac? Because that's the old one. That was the old Intel based that was an iMac that is now 15 years, no, 17 years old. I plugged it into an iMac that's 17 years old. It did not read the drive until the next morning I looked at it and I had full access to the drive.
You just said it was new, but it isn't. 17.
So I took it off the old one and brought it back out to my office in the new one. And it worked there too. It wasn't working there before. That's why I tried it on the old one. But after spending all night on the old one and popping up on the screen the next morning, I brought it over to the new computer and it had the same experience, popped right up on the screen. And I had full access to it. I'm using the drive right now. What I suspect is going on, the reason for the slow transfer time that I was originally experiencing, and the reason that it took so long when this new drive was introduced with that data, is that the Macintosh writes special files on the drive. Every directory has a special file in it from the Macintosh, telling it more about the file system. It does this indexing that we've been talking about the new operating system needing to re-index all its files. The Macintosh uses an operating system that's called a journaling operating system. It's the kind of system that you can actually just kill the power on the Macintosh and then turn it back on, and the computer will go right back to the instance that you were at, because of this journaling operating system. It's have not seen yet in the Windows platform. And because of that, when I plugged in 3.5 terabytes of unknown data, the Macintosh immediately started scrambling to write these special files. I suspect if it was an SSD drive, I would have gotten results much quicker, quick enough that I wouldn't have thought there was a problem. I also suspect, well, I know from my own use, that as that computer, if I had started with the drive fresh on my Macintosh and gradually added to it, I would never have had that experience, because it would have written those files in real time, and so they would have already existed. Those indexes would have already existed, and I could have just at any moment taken that exFAT drive and moved it over to Windows. It would have been fine. Move it back to the Macintosh, it would have been fine. But it's because I approached the Macintosh with a spinning hard drive that had 3.5 terabytes of data on it that I experienced this insane amount of time to wait to get that data available on that computer. And I mean, twice I fished the packaging out of the trash because I knew I was sending this drive back to Amazon. But at the same time, it passed all the tests. It works great. It works on the Windows computer. There's no reason to think there's a problem with it, except for when you plug it into the Macintosh. And now I'm using it regularly. It's up 24/7 doing its job. But that experience is one to think about when you're thinking about things like, my phone's getting hot after I upgrade it. Well, there's a whole bunch of indexing that's going on in that phone after it's upgraded to the new operating system. It's that kind of experience. Anyway, that's my experience I bring to Computer Club today. If you've had an experience like that and you have a Macintosh computer, I would say give it time. It may just sort itself out if you're just patient with it.
It's not just me. Same with you.
Yeah, you feel that way? Yeah. I don't know if, I mean, Android, yeah, I guess Android does have its own database, its own way of storing data for each one of the
I
apps.
think it's a teenager who it wants. And then wants to
That's a good one.
Well, has anybody else got stories they'd like to share I did bring some articles of stuff that I'm happy to share with you. I thought you'd find interesting. If
I came over today because my sister told me that you guys talk about AI platforms. I'm a writer, I'm a novelist,
okay,
and obviously there's a whole spectrum of AI. It's not just a generic term. But I've been researching platforms for language translation. So I've got 5 novels published. I'd like to translate them to foreign language redistribution. So I've just been searching around, and I found a couple that might be all right. I found this one platform called Jasper.
okay.
It's a writing AI. I don't find that Chat GPT covers my needs. Anyway, I thought maybe you guys would know something about the different AI platforms, and maybe know a suggestion for
Well,
some that are really excellent with it. Because it's not just, AI can give you word for word translation. It isn't just that. It's smart translation. It's actual language translation.
is Jasper Jasper?
PER.
Oh, Jasper. Yeah. There we go. I'm not familiar with Jasper. I don't think we've talked about it before in class.
Well, I don't know anything about it either. I only found it a few days ago, but it's one of the platforms that offers 30 language translation. That's significant.
Yeah, that's and in the future that may be. I mean, you may be going to a translating service and they'll have their own AI for specifically that.
Well,
that
if
job.
you try to do it manually, I mean, it'll cost you $15,000 to $20,000 to translate a sizable novel.
Well, and you definitely need somebody going along. I mean, as you're translating bits of it, you need somebody that can verify that it's the correct stuff. What we've been talking about with AI and experimenting quite a bit with are Bard, which is available for free from Google to anybody that has a Google account. The Chat GPT stuff that's been made freely available. I don't think anybody in our group has actually paid the subscription fee yet. And Copilot, all the Copilot stuff that's been made available to us for free, we've been playing around with. I've extensively been using it for writing in programming language. The Google Apps Script language is what I've been using it with.
Well, I think that's where I mean, for my applications, I mean, I'm not trying to create a
what I do know,
robot that's AI. I mean, I'm that walks around and and mess up your life. It's like like if you do any design work, I use the Canva platform. Canva's got its own AI component in there that will help you develop.
It's happened
and design work. I mean, AI is like
it's happened so fast.
It comes in a million different formats. So it's not an automatic thing to just no, I'm not using AI. No, I don't. AI. It's how you use AI and I get it.
So
as a writer, I use it strictly for technical, purposes that. I use it for design work. I use it for hell, Grammarly is an AI.
I hope you guys are able to hear what Ron's saying out there, okay? Given our mic situation here.
Not really.
Yeah, not really. You're missing it, Chester.
Yeah.
We're basically just talking about the different varieties of AI that are out there, and AI really has become kind of just nomenclature for anything that's generative AI. Any of these things, these large language models that are like you just said it, spell checker, grammar checker. Those are all what we would call AI at this point because it's all based on the same type of technology. It's also one of the reasons that they say we don't have to worry about a Terminator experience or a world taking over world experience, at least not from this branch of AI. This branch of AI, the experts say we've exhausted that line of research. It's one of the reasons we're seeing it pop out in all these consumer products now, is because this is as far as they can go with this style technology. And they already know it's not going to lead to intelligence.
Right.
They if they want true artificial intelligence, they got to go down a different path. This is like, well, if you're building a character, this is like the clothing. This is like the hat and the gloves the character will be wearing, but they still haven't figured out how to make the mind of the character. So it can fool us into thinking that it's thinking, but it absolutely isn't. I have had an experience with translations with Bard that I thought was really interesting recently. I had to write something for my daughter is in this program to do an exchange student with the Rotary Club here in Mexico. And they want me to write up a paragraph of why I would be a good host parent. And it has to be in Spanish. And I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll write it up in English. I mean, I speak Spanish, but I don't trust my Spanish to be formal enough. And so I'll write it up in English as formal as I would like it to be. And then I'll ask Bard to rewrite it for me. And then I'll stick it through a translator and see if I like the what I got. And so I wrote up in my speech. You guys know how I talk. I asked it to write it, I angle it towards like a rotary. I give it the background, and it came up with just this very flowery, a high level language in English that just really blew my mind. In fact, I read it.
Use Yuya.
What's that?
Why not use Yuya?
Oh, I could, but you know, she's got dozens of things she's responsible for every day. This is my responsibility. I will use Yuya in the end, but that's not the point of this story. The point of this story isn't how Scott gets tasks done. The point of the story is using AI to solve a problem. And it was very flowery, and it was like 3-4 syllable words. I actually told it, I said, can you rewrite this with only 2 syllable words? And it did its best, but one of the things that I've witnessed using AIs to help me with stuff like this is many times a one-off use is the most accurate use of it. As you fill your chat experience, because all of these are like chat experiences, as you fill that chat experience with more and more information, you may be getting farther and farther away from what you're trying to accomplish, because it is just a generative model.
Find that true with Midjourney. I have a subscription to Midjourney because I do design work for like certain things on my eBay store. I do my own designs, and Midjourney is exactly like that. The further you go with it, the more it learns what you want, and it begins to get repetitious. You know, there's not as much creativity as there is initially.
Well, I was going to say, when I said do 2-syllable words or less, what it really interpreted is wanted everything abbreviated. So it didn't read any better. It was shorter, and it used shorter words, but it didn't read any better. In fact, you had to interpret all these abbreviations that it chosen to put into the document instead of using a thesaurus to pick other synonyms for the words that would be more. And so I went back from scratch to what I'd written, and I said, write this so that it would be appropriate to put through a translator, because that's really my goal. Is I just want to paste it into a translator and get some intelligence come out of it. Well, it interpreted that as translating it, and when it translated it, it did both at the same time. It elevated my level of speech and the words, the flowery words that I felt were not necessary with this kind of writing. And then it translated it almost beautifully. Like if I wanted to write like a poet in Spanish, it did it. It's not appropriate for what I was going to submit, but it did that work instead.
If you're going to keep doing that work, you might look at a platform called Designer, DESIGNRR/Word. Well, Word Genius. They're
I've heard of Word Genie.
yeah, it's part of Designer, DESIGNRR.
RR.
Designer.
Okay.
It's really excellent for that kind of for the kind of stuff that you're talking about. It's
Well, and it reaffirms this thinking that I have, is we're going to just end up with models that are more appropriate in certain places. And ChatGPT is already doing it. They're allowing you to, if you pay the subscription, the $20 a month, then you get your artificial intelligence and you start seeding it with all the information. So on a very rudimentary level of understanding, you're a mechanic, you fill it up with all your Chilton manuals, all your, right? And then you ask it mechanical questions. You're a chemist, you fill your AI with all your chemistry texts and you ask it questions. And this is really how I've been using it as I'm writing programs. It is like the repository. For me, I've had these experiences, I've talked about them before, where I feel like I am interacting with another software engineer, where I got an idea, I can't quite make it work. Have you heard of this idea? Oh yeah, you can make it work like this. Oh great, I'll try that. Well, it sort of worked, but it gave me this error. And I'm quite literally copying and pasting back and forth between a developmental environment and this chat constantly going on. And I've learned very quickly to disregard that chat. The moment it starts hallucinating into garbage, I'm like, oh, it's not helping me anymore. Go to a new chat. Now it's a blank slate AI. Once again, it only knows what it started with. And now I can start seeding it again and asking it questions again.
Yeah, when I use AI, I don't use it. I don't use it for creative work, but when I want to do something less creative, I'm not loath to employ the AI, but I've learned it all has to be completely edited to make it really readable, as you know, as if a human wrote it. It's not. I don't find AI advanced enough to the point that it can write for you, but Designer will do a good job for you because the database they plugged into the brain of that thing is really geared toward the kind of stuff that you were just talking about.
Well, and in general, these other AIs, these AIs that are being directed towards specific tasks, like the Copilot for GitHub for programming, I have not had a chance to work in that environment, but the way it's been described to me is that it is so quick and so fast to offer up that you're writing your program, and the AI will interpret what you've already been laying down and come to you with suggestions, multiple choice suggestions. Are you thinking you want to do this in a loop? Are you thinking that this is going to be an if, then, now situation? Here's some code we've seen used in the past when you use it in conjunction to things you've already written. And all that's just happening in real time as you're writing your program. You can ignore it or you can use it right on the fly. It will do code completion. So you start writing your loop, but you're writing a loop that is so obviously the standard thing that you've learned in that it can just finish filling it out for you.
Above my paper. I use it very elementary. I just wanted to write good sentences and cogent paragraphs and mostly what I'm looking for is a platform, and the real question I have for you was whether or not you knew of an AI platform that really does reliable language translation. That's a real pain in the ass for. I speak Spanish too, but not well enough to write in Spanish. And there are 138 countries where Amazon could publish my novels if they were in.
I don't think
good Spanish.
In my experience, I don't think it's. I mean, our translators are amazing now. I don't know if you've had the experience I've had.
Translators.
Yeah, for example, Google Translate.
Oh, yeah.
Like when I first started using Google Translate, stick something through it, and to my gringo eyes at that time, at my level of Spanish, I'd read it and go, well, I know what it's trying to say. And then I hand it to my wife or my sister-in-law, and they'd be like, we don't even use these words. This is not the way we would say anything.
Same thing with my wife. Yeah.
So fast forward to 2024, and I put this through Google Translate, and I hand it to my sister-in-law or my wife, and they're like, yeah, that's good. And that's the evolution of translation.
Considerably better, but
It's become more regional too, even Mexican Spanish here.
Yeah.
As opposed to Spanish.
But what I've learned is you can't translate pages and like your novel. You can't translate pages and
200,000
pages.
words, that's a whole nother-
Yeah. You have to babysit paragraph by paragraph to make sure that they're working together. And I see that in the AIs as well. There's a number of journalists out there that are praising AIs now. They use Bard from Google for free to do their translations.
Check that out. I've not used Bard. I'm gonna check it out and use it for something small.
Oh, absolutely, something small and short. But you can go back into your request and remodify it, so you can change the way you've asked the question, and it'll reiterate that in the same chat. And they are swearing, these I listen to all these podcasts and journalists, and the ones that are writers are saying that they're doing that now instead of going to translate.google.com.
Designer is excellent. I mean, it's first rate. That's come the closest to anything I've explored. I mean, really, that's phenomenal content.
Well, you have provided us with two different AIs I've never heard of, Jasper and Designer. I'm writing them down here. And the ones that I'm mentioning are Bard.
PART.
Yeah, like a minstrel.
Didn't really know that.
Yeah.
Try that.
And Copilot is one you're hearing a lot about right now because Microsoft is invested in Chat GPT, and that's their version when they implement it in their programs. But Copilot, you really got to take that with a grain of salt, because when you use Copilot in GitHub, that's a lot different than using it in Bing, and it's a lot different than using it in Skype, because they are branding all this. I mean, pretty soon your spell checker that you've had for the last 30 years, Microsoft's going to rename that Copilot too, because they're just putting Copilot on everything that they think is AI.
Is there a site for evaluating? Yes,
See you, Judy.
or no?
You know what? I'm sure there is. I haven't looked for one particular site. I'm not familiar with one, but I'm sure there is. There's somebody out there that's rating and reviewing these AIs and setting up a table of them for what's best for what. But I'm sorry, I can't think of anything that I've run across recently.
Ask Bard.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question for Bard. This is another thing we do in our club often these days, is we'll just start asking the AI questions and see what kind of results we get. So I'll put it up here on this. If I spell it, I always spell Bards. I want more than one helping me.
With voice rest. Apps out there, or programs out there now, where they can listen to you say yes, this is your question, and then utilize that to imitate other sounds from your voice and order from Visa or whatever. It's a scam. How can you determine if you are being scammed other than not saying yes on the phone?
Okay, my rule of thumb to begin with is if you think it's a scam, it's a scam.
It's a scam.
That's right. So if there's any doubt in your mind, you're probably being scammed.
I'm talking about voice recognition.
Mm-hmm.
They can pattern the speech into your voice.
Well, I know what you're trying to say. We've got these AIs out there that can listen to your daughter's voice and then call you and pretend to be your daughter. That's what you're concerned about.
Yes.
And how can you vet that? And it's as painfully as possible. You can vet it. You can listen to it. You can sympathize. You can hang up, and then you can immediately go and contact your daughter in a completely different manner and make sure that's somebody you just had a conversation with.
Right.
Just ask a question that she.
But technically, is it possible to determine if it's an AI or a person? Is there a technical way of doing it?
Well, I mean, the best way to answer that question is at any given time there is, and at any given time there isn't, because this is an arms race in those respects. It's the same thing with trying to fingerprint copyright material, trying to find pornography, the child, people that are abusing children. This stuff on the internet, it's an arms race, and they do something, that hide their activities, and then the group that needs to unhide them spend a lot of time working on. A good example of that's the Tor browser system, where, like, if you wanted to hide what you're doing, you could use the Tor browser. Nobody's looking for your activities, and that would be the easiest way for you to hide it from people you're not thinking about. But if you were doing covert activities for a government that's being monitored, Tor would be the worst idea. Because at this point, all the governments are monitoring all these Tor exit nodes. And so that's where they're looking for bad guys. Eventually they're going to come across your traffic. Now, that wasn't the case at the beginning, but that's where we are now, because it's an arms race. They figure out a way to do something. They figure out a way to and the vays are vague on both sides of this. You want to do something over here, and these people over here decide, no, we don't want you doing that. We need to track you doing that. And so they build up the technology to track that technology. And then somebody else comes up with, I'm getting sick of getting tracked for doing that stuff. And they come up with something else that'll keep them anonymous. And the groups, the powers that be that want to keep track of that, go, wait, we got to figure out how to track that now.
I think what I'm saying is there's developing a system.
I don't think so.
Used on a large scale.
I just don't think there ever will be. I think it will always be these incremental TikToks that happen with technology. I'm fond of saying, oh, I thank you. Bill is reminding me that we're about ready to lose our virtual meeting. Thank you, Bill. And you guys out there, I'm going to go ahead and just start opening that next meet so people can meander over to the new meet. I think that we're going to be going through this TikTok, that this change. This is always going to be, this is part of our new reality. It's been like this for years now. I'm fond of saying that anything that's technically possible to be done will be done. You can make any laws you want, but if you can technically do it, somebody out there is going to technically do it. And if you can technically block it, somebody out there is going to figure out how to technically block it. And if you can technically unblock it, somebody out there is going to open the meet here, but not over here. I need one more second to be ready. Yeah, it's complicated. It's complicated. You too, Ron, and come back anytime.
I'm gonna run since I got stuff.
All right. Wait.
Yeah, the last translator.
You need to find some promising college student that's looking for experience.
No, I've tried that. No. I mean, my first novel was published in 2011, and I haven't found it. You know, it's too monstrous. You know, it's worse than writing the novel.
Is trying to get
Now
it translated.
You have to figure out what the hell I was trying to say. All right, take care.
Right? We should all be translating. Well, it doesn't sound very lucrative if nobody wants to pay for it.
You get novels that are bestsellers here. A bunch of teams published.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. All right. We're back in business. Thank you, Ron. Chester has his hand up. What would you like to add, Chester?
There was a question on television.
Oh, has he finally done it?
Yeah.
Expected operating somewhat like
Yeah, this implant. He's had this implant business for a while now. Well, I think what Chester, if they've done it, that was the last step, was to get it approved to do this. So he must have gotten it approved.
What country?
Ernest,
this whole other section has not been broadcasting audio.
Oh. Okay,
Damn it.
it's
Anyway,
Ruth's.
we're back. If anybody's decided to stay with us during this blank period of audio, we're back.
Samsung model number T510. What am I
Okay,
looking
but
for? Software?
yeah, that's not really what matters. As they've incremented Android versions, they've
Yes.
added more and more control over account settings in the settings. And so depending on what version you're on, you may be able to go to a settings option called accounts, and it would ask you what kind of account you want to add to it. It should list the accounts you have, give you the option to add an account, and then give you an array of account types to choose from, like a Microsoft account, a Google account, a Yahoo account, Exchange account. These are all different options that are offered to you.
Okay, so the Android version is 11, and the kind of account that gets into the Android system. What kind of account is that?
Yeah, well, what you would do is you'd go into accounts,
Okay,
and then you'd have an option there to add a new account. And then what it should do is give you a selection of different style accounts or other.
okay. Samsung iCloud, Google Drive, Smart Switch.
Cool. Is there a
Manage
way to add new account?
Manage account.
And if you can't do that in settings, then it's something you can do in the Google apps themselves, and it will put it into settings in the correct place.
Okay, so under the manage accounts, the one I'm looking at is called a Samsung account. The one that we think we want to use is a Google account.
Okay.
She's not-
Now, Cheryl, all of those accounts are at the same level.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yeah. So you just need to add one more account. You need to add a Google account for the photos, or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. Are you still with us?
Well, I'm thinking that I don't want another photo Gmail account. I want an Android account, a Samsung account.
Why do you want a Samsung account in the first place?
Well, isn't that what everything on her tablet?
No, it's just one more account tracking your behavior. It's actually not that helpful to have a Samsung account. They're trying to get you into the Samsung ecosystem, so you use the Samsung store, and
Right.
yeah, none of that is real. I mean, most people that use an Android device, whether they have a Samsung account or not, they're doing everything through a Google account.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, so I could probably delete that account and everything would still be fine.
Linda's offering to come over and give you a hand.
So if I delete or
But she knows how to
remove,
get a hold of you. Thank
if
you,
I
Linda.
remove a Samsung account,
What I'm proposing to stay out of trouble is you don't remove anything. You just
okay,
add.
just keep adding. She's got
Just
a lot of accounts here.
Well, that's neither here nor there, but you're going to have to discover each one that is not helping before you feel comfortable removing it.
Yeah.
And so from an IT perspective, when I come into a device that's set up and I don't understand all the aspects of it, the last thing I do is just leave everything exactly as it is. I focus on the goal of the customer. Now I've got a lot of experience, so many times I'll look at something and go, they don't want that installed, and I'll remove it. But that's all because of my experience. I do the same thing on Windows computers. I get on somebody's computer and be like, oh, geez, you got 6 different things running here. None of them you need. And I'll immediately remove them because I know them. But if I was if I saw 6 different things I couldn't identify, I'd just leave them alone because I got a different goal and they're using the device right now. I don't want to break their ability to use the device. All I want to do is add this extra that they're trying to do, whatever that extra might be.
Yeah.
And so cleaning up a device and setting up a device, I think of as 2 different tasks. And sometimes I'll do them at the same time, but it's all based on my experience. If I don't have the experience, I don't even try and do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was hoping to simplify it for her, but I don't think we can.
I think you can simplify it for her, but it's not a simple task, if you follow what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like in your goal of trying to make things simpler, you can easily wipe over stuff that needed to be dealt with, and now you're in a bigger problem, if you follow what I mean.
We put it away. We're just going to go and enjoy the sun and forget it.
That is the right answer from the San Carlos Computer Club. Is
That
if you're
they only
having
have 4
problems
more
with your
days in
technology,
paradise, so.
you're supposed to be on the beach anyway.
Yeah, 4 more days in paradise for them. So there you
That's
go.
right.
Okay, thank you so much. Take care.
You're welcome. You too, Cheryl. We'll see you later. Tech on.
Bye-bye.
Jim, you got any last minutes? Jim or James, you guys got any last minute stuff you want to add? Sid?
Well, just about that AI going rogue. We live in a town of elders, and it's amazing the number of mild-mannered people that just, when it's not AI, it's people go rogue. And,
Go rogue.
Yeah, we had, the latest one this last month. One of our neighbors who just about jumped out of her skin if I said hello, and she would always walked way down on the edge of the road, far away from if I was working on the car or anything like that. And she just hurt herself and ended up in the hospital, and they finally just said, oh, you better not go anywhere, because they didn't have anybody to send her home to. And basically she's wandering around some facility, health facility down in Nanaimo now, going into rooms, cursing everybody out, and just acting like a real rogue. So it's amazing when intelligence breaks. You never know what's really going to happen.
What you started out was a reference to one of the articles I brought that we didn't get to talk about.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We did talk a little bit about it. I thought earlier, and it reminded me of that.
Yeah, what was interesting, the crux of that article is that they intentionally taught AIs bad behavior. And then they had set aside these techniques for dealing with that bad behavior, how to refresh that AI, these ideas of how to bring it back from its hallucinations of bad behavior. And what they discovered was it wasn't able to do that. They weren't able to bring back, they called it a poisoned AI. When it had been taught bad behavior, they had these techniques they thought would clean up that behavior. It sounds like if you had an AI that was swearing, or you had an AI that was lying, or you had some of that kind of behavior, then they had set aside this test plan that would allow you to clean up that behavior. And what the researchers discovered is they cannot clean up that behavior. And the very worst of the research, I know it was good research, the very worst of the results were not only could they not clean up the behavior, they discovered that the AI had learned how to hide that it was behaving badly. So it would give all the right answers to the people that are challenging it while still behaving badly in the background.
Well, that's just like our Audrey. Went from being a mild-mannered English lady in white clothes lawn bowling to this trucker. But apparently she's a widow, and she's 80 years old, I guess. No, 90 years old. And she her husband was a bit of a rogue, so maybe that's where she learned all this bad language. Who knows?
Well, it sounds like you've got some built-in entertainment in your community right there.
Well, it's quite something. I think about 25% of us are over 80.
Oh, wow. Wow.
That's pretty amazing. But you're still out playing pickleball, so that's good. We're like,
guys, I gotta let you, Jim, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I gotta let you go though. Everybody here in our meet has moved on. I'm sitting here by myself. I got to clean up all this equipment and go on to my next job.
All right. Au revoir.
We'll see you later. Sid, Dad, Jim, James, everybody, you could tech on. We'll see you next Tuesday is a virtual meeting. I'll be back in Phoenix doing work, so there won't be an in-person meeting.
Well, we're
Thanks,
looking forward to that. See you then.
Take care, you guys.
See ya.
Heck
You're
on.
welcome, Jim. You too, Jim. Adios. Hasta la próxima. Microphone. We did it again. That was it. This is the San Carlos Computer Club. I'm Scott Stimson from International Computer Solutions. You see it in the corner there. If you've got, if you're looking for solutions out there on the internet, I've probably got them for you. I can remote into your computer, into your servers, into your systems, and help you. Give me a call or get a hold of me through email, scott@internationalcs.net. Until next Tuesday, everyone out there in internet land, you tech on.